Guys, we have to pause right at the first frame. Look at this insane setup. The fireplace in the Falcone mansion is roaring. But it might as well be an absolute freezer inside Isabella's chest. She is sitting there, completely shattered, gripping a silk handkerchief soaked in her own tears. Across the table, 4 years of dead silence disguised as a marriage. That is Luciano Falcone, the undisputed kingpin of Manhattan, a guy whose ice blue eyes make grown men shake. And now, he is staring at these divorce papers like someone just handed him his own death warrant. The irony is suffocating. He is built out of pure danger, yet paralyzed by a single piece of paper. It just goes to show you. The biggest obstacles in life are not always physical. Sometimes, the heaviest things we have to lift are the choices we make. Look closely at how the camera frames this guy. His custom suit fits his massive frame like actual medieval armor. The firelight catches that solid gold falcon ring, and you can see his family crest tattoo peeking out. He built a bloody, ruthless empire with those bare hands and buried his worst rivals with them. But the bitterest part, those same lethal hands cannot save the single thing he actually loves. Isabella is a former sweet piano teacher with dreams as gentle as her eyes. Now, she is completely broken by a medical sentence, leaving her womb empty for 2 straight years. The Mafia does not care about love, guys. The aunts and capos all demand a male heir. It is a harsh reality that no matter how much power or money you build up in this world, there are some things you simply cannot buy or control. So Isabella makes the absolute ultimate sacrificial play. She refuses to let him drown with her. She is ready to sign her name, cut the cord, and let him find some mob princess who can give him the sons his throne desperately needs. But hit pause for a second, because here is the craziest plot twist. As her shaking hand picks up that pen, there is a literal miracle already growing inside her, and neither of them has a single clue. Standing deep in the shadows is an old housekeeper with the exact same ice blue eyes as the boss himself. She is watching this tragedy play out, clutching a secret she has buried for 32 years. A secret that is going to nuke everything this family knows. Honestly, it is a powerful truth that you can bury your secrets as deep as you want. But the truth always finds its way back to the surface. Before we unpack this crazy flashback together, you and I need to make a deal. Hit that like button if you are already feeling the heartbreak. And subscribe so we can keep tearing these wild stories apart together. Alright, let us rewind 4 years to a freezing afternoon in Queens. Isabella gets a phone call that snaps her life right in half. Her dad, the guy who was supposedly a total rock against any storm, is sobbing on the line like a scared kid. His construction company, 30 years of pure sweat and blood, is completely belly up. A massive high-rise project caved in, dragging the entire family fortune straight down into the dirt. Just absolute devastation. It really teaches you to appreciate what you have right now. Because one single phone call can completely turn your entire reality upside down in the blink of an eye. But listen, losing the money is not even the fatal spot here. The absolute worst part. Her dad borrowed $2 million to stay afloat. Not from a bank. Not from a buddy. He took it from the one name that makes all of Manhattan sweat, Falcone. Isabella drops her piano lesson, races across the bridge, and finds her dad slumped over the kitchen table. Right in front of him is this black envelope with gold lettering. It is basically a Mafia summons to the mansion to discuss his debt. Her mom is weeping, and her teenage brother is hiding. So what does Isabella do? At 23, armed with nothing but a music degree, she walks right into the lion's den in her father's place. It clearly shows us that real courage is not about being fearless. It is about stepping up for the people you love, even when you are absolutely terrified. The camera tracks her right into Luciano's second-floor study. Sunlight is slicing through these massive windows, hitting the dark oak floor. He is 32 at this point, but he has been warming the boss's chair for 14 brutal years when he speaks. It seriously sounds like a freight train idling underground, his deal cold, calculated, and crazy simple. The $2 million debt vanishes. Her father keeps his pride, and her little brother goes to college. The catch: she has to become his wife, take the Falcone name, and move into his fortress. He does not sugarcoat it at all. He does not offer a single word about love or romance. He is just making a transaction to buy a wife. It is a brutal fact that in the real world, desperation always comes with a massive price tag, and absolutely nothing is ever truly given away for free. He slides the contract across the desk and just waits. Isabella signs it. Her hand is completely steady on the outside, but you can practically hear her soul dying on the inside. 3 weeks later, they are standing in this tiny church by the Hudson River. Just the families and a handful of Mafia captains. She is wearing her mother's white lace dress, crying her eyes out. When he puts that ring on her finger, she is convinced she just locked herself in a golden cage. But here is where the script totally flips on us. The wildest thing about this forced marriage is not the Mafia danger. It is her first night in the mansion. Luciano walks her down to the east wing, opens a door, and leaves her entirely speechless. It proves that sometimes the situations that look exactly like our worst nightmares end up hiding the most unexpected surprises. Sitting right in the middle of a room flooded with moonlight is a glossy black Steinway piano. He did his homework, guys. He knew she used to dream of playing concert halls before her dad went broke, in this incredibly quiet voice. This ruthless mob boss tells her the room is hers alone. Nobody will ever bother her while she plays. He actually had the thing shipped overnight from Vienna, and then he leaves. He sleeps in a completely different room. Isabella cries herself to sleep that night, completely wrecked by the irony. The guy the entire city writes off as a cold-blooded monster is treating her like the most fragile, precious thing he has ever laid hands on. It completely scrambles her brain. It really shows you that you can never truly judge a person from the outside, because even the hardest hearts can hold a massive amount of grace. Over the next few months, Luciano is basically a ghost in his own house. He is out the door before the sun is up and back home, long after she is asleep. But every single Sunday morning, he sits in the dining room with a black coffee, totally silent, just listening to her talk about Chopin sonatas. He never smiles. But those freezing blue eyes actually thaw out a little when she talks music. And the details this guy tracks. Absolutely insane. He brings her rare sheet music from London auctions and makes sure the house is filled with white peonies. He memorizes every tiny thing about her. While she goes on believing, he is barely even looking in her direction. It is a beautiful truth. Honestly, real love is not always loud and flashy. Sometimes, it is the quiet, consistent attention someone pays to your smallest details when you least expect it. Now pay close attention, because you and I are looking at the emotional fatal spot of the entire first act. It is month 13. She is playing a Chopin nocturne. She looks up, and there is Luciano in the doorway, still in his suit, nursing a whiskey. He is just watching her. And the look on his face. That is not the boss of the underworld. That is a man staring at the only light switch left in his pitch-black life. The music stops, they lock eyes across the candles, and it finally hits her. The truth she has been terrified to admit for 2 years. She loves him. She is hopelessly in love with the monster she was supposed to hate. A love so deep it would destroy her if he walked away. It teaches us a huge reality about human nature. You cannot negotiate with your own heart. And sometimes we end up loving the exact thing we tried to avoid. Right at the start of year 3, the ultimate tragedy strikes. Isabella is 26. And these awful pains start ripping through her stomach every single night. First, she plays it off as stress. Then she blames her cycle. But soon she is waking up so dizzy she has to grip the mattress just to stand. She hides the agony from Luciano for 3 whole months, because she is terrified of being a burden. But you cannot hide a falling sky, guys. One afternoon she just drops in the piano room. Maggie finds her curled up, soaked in a cold sweat. Luciano drops everything and rushes her to the top specialist at Cornell. 3 days of scans later, the doctor drops the hammer on her life. It is a harsh truth that pushing down your pain to protect others never works, eventually. Your body will absolutely force you to face what you have been hiding from. The diagnosis is an absolute death sentence for a Mafia wife. Severe polycystic cysts and massive tissue damage. The chance of a natural pregnancy is 0. The doctor keeps talking about surgeries, but it is just white noise to her. She is sitting in that freezing leather chair, gripping Luciano's massive hand, feeling her entire world snap into pieces. She knows exactly what an empty womb means for a king who needs an heir. And Luciano. The drive back in the Rolls-Royce is dead silent. He just pulls her into his chest, resting his hand on her hair. His breathing is heavier, but there is no anger. He absorbs the blow like a brick wall, just taking the hit for her. It proves that true strength in a partner is not about fixing every problem. It is about standing right there in the absolute darkest moments and completely refusing to let go of your hand. But listen up, guys. That silence is exactly what plants the seed of absolute terror in her mind, and in the Mafia. A secret like this does not stay quiet. The sharks smell the blood immediately. Enter Aunt Giovanna. She is 71, rocks-dyed hair, and has this permanent fake smile that never reaches her eyes. She waltzes in with white lilies funeral flowers, basically, and sits down for tea. She coats her venom in pure sugar, asks about the treatments, then casually drops a story about some cousin who could not have kids, got dumped by her husband and watched him marry someone else to have 5 sons. It is psychological warfare, a pure, calculated strike. It is a vital rule to always guard your peace. Because there will always be toxic people waiting for your absolute weakest moment, just to plant terrible seeds of doubt in your head. Picture the scene, guys. The mother-in-law, Giovanna, flashes this perfectly practiced, icy smile and announces that a Falcone man needs an heir. She claims it is a tradition going back 300 years, sweet words, right. But listen, those words are dipped in pure venom, aimed straight at our girl Isabella. Every single Friday night dinner at that massive mansion is not just a meal. It is a straight-up masterclass in psychological warfare. Giovanna sits right next to Luciano, her voice dripping with fake joy as she brings up another mob boss's new grandchild, and Tommaso. That 39-year-old snake of a hitman just stares at Isabella's stomach like it is an active crime scene. Remember this. The cruelest cuts in life do not come from a sharp knife. They come wrapped in a family's fake smile. Let me pause the timeline right here to point out the absolute real tragedy. The older Mafia bosses, a few drinks deep, start muttering under their breath in Italian. They actually think Isabella cannot understand them joking about her empty womb. She learns the absolute hardest survival skill. She learns how to smile brightly when you are literally dying inside, sitting up straight while your soul completely shatters. And Luciano, the big Mafia boss, stays dead silent. He never tells his mother to back off or defends his wife out loud. All he does is reach under the table and squeeze her hand like a secret apology. But here is a simple truth you have to learn. When a person is drowning in plain sight, a quiet hand squeeze in the dark is not a life raft. It is just an anchor pulling them further down. Fast forward to last week. The night of Giovanna's 71st birthday, at her massive Scarsdale estate. 20 core family members are hanging around. We are talking high-ranking bosses and old advisors. Right after dessert, Giovanna stands up and clinks her expensive glass. Right in front of everybody. And specifically in front of Isabella. She drops the absolute hammer. Her voice rings out like a cold judge reading a final death sentence. She announces it is officially time for Don Falcone to secure the bloodline. Love is a private matter, she claims. But blood is 3 centuries of business. She says the family will gladly help him find a new wife, who can actually bear a son. The entire room goes graveyard silent. It is a harsh reminder that in the brutal game of power and money, genuine love is always the very first casualty. Every single pair of eyes in that massive dining room shifts straight to Luciano. This is the big moment, right? The husband she loved so much, it literally hurt her to breathe, is finally going to snap. But no, guys. He does absolutely nothing. He does not defend her honor. He just sets his crystal wine glass down, stares at the white tablecloth, and lets the heavy silence hang in the air. That cowardly silence was the final drop in a cup Isabella had been carrying for way too long. She goes home, sits by her piano until the sun comes up, and makes the hardest choice of her life. Now, 7 days later, she sits in her living room, staring at the man she married. The divorce papers are resting between them like a newly sharpened knife. Remember, sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is simply walk away from toxic people. The huge fire is roaring in the hearth. But our girl Isabella is freezing from the inside out. She has cried all her desperate tears by the afternoon, leaving nothing but a crushing, hollow weight deep in her chest. The slick family lawyers cleared out an hour ago. All that is left on the dark walnut table is the final agreement and a heavy black pen. Just one signature left. That is the crazy part about life. Right, one single stroke of ink. And she goes back to being Isabella Hartwell. Just a piano teacher. A girl who never should have tangled with dirty blood money. One little signature. And she sets Luciano free to find a woman who can give him the heirs his toxic family demands. Letting go of someone you truly love is a special kind of hell. But sometimes it is the absolute only way to survive and finally find your peace. She pulls in a violently shaky breath. She refuses to look up at his face. knowing damn well that one glance into his eyes will shatter her resolve. Her fingers are like pure ice as she picks up that fancy black pen. It feels like it weighs 50 pounds. Or maybe her deep grief has just drained every ounce of strength she had left. She leans over the thick contract, places the gold tip right on the line labeled for the wife, and starts tracing the first letter of her name. The pen trembles, slashing a dark black scar across the pristine white page. And right then, the camera goes completely blurry. The room starts spinning wildly out of control. The orange flames stretch into weird neon streaks, and the chandelier shatters. It is a brutal truth of life. You can lie to your brain all you want, but the physical body always keeps the score. All of a sudden, the rich smell of his Cuban tobacco hits her. For 4 long years, that scent was her ultimate comfort zone, but right now, it literally feels like invisible hands wrapping tight around her throat. A violent wave of sickness hits her stomach and rushes straight up to her mouth. A high-pitched ringing starts echoing in her ears, completely drowning out the crackling fire. Through the heavy haze, she hears the fancy pen slip right out from her fingers, hit the wooden table, and roll onto the rug with a hollow thud. She desperately tries to open her mouth. She wants to tell him she is fine. She wants to say his name one last time. But her tongue is made of solid lead. Like a falling tower, her body starts tilting forward. You see, when the human heart breaks completely, the physical body just decides to shut down the main power grid to protect itself. Listen closely, guys, because this is the specific frame that will absolutely break you. The last thing Isabella sees before the dark void takes her is Luciano's face. The cold Mafia boss mask is totally gone. Instead, we see a terrified man watching his entire universe get wiped out. His icy blue eyes go wide, and this massive man lunges across the table with terrifying speed. Before her brain can even process it, she is caught safely in his arms. The very same hands that have ended lives, the same hands that cowardly hid under the dinner table, are now gripping her like a steel cage. She is pressed hard against his chest, and his cologne is the last tether keeping her tied to the real world. It is a harsh truth we all face. You never truly realize what is precious until it is slipping right through your desperate fingers. Then, cutting through the darkness like a desperate echo, she hears him speak. This is not the smooth voice of a ruthless crime lord. It is not that cowardly silence from the dining room. No, guys, it is a voice she has literally never heard in their 4 years of marriage. It is the raw, ugly sound of a broken man losing his absolute everything. He roars her name, Bella. It echoes wildly in her fading mind. Do not leave me, cara mia, that frantic, broken plea is the last thing she hears before the dark current drags her completely under. When the camera finally fades back in, the scene is totally different. The crisp scent of fresh lavender hits her nose. The storm is over, but the emotional wreckage is still there. Remember this. People only ever seem to find their true voice when it is way too late to actually use it. She slowly blinks awake, finding herself in the center of their giant master bed. Her heavy dress is gone, replaced by a soft silk nightgown someone carefully slipped on her. A bedside lamp casts a moody, golden cinematic glow across her face. For one tragic second, her brain hits the reset button and she completely forgets the nightmare. She forgets the brutal divorce papers. Then cold reality crashes back into her skull like a freight train. She desperately wants to break down and sob, but her tired body is just too drained to do anything but stare. Sitting next to her bed is an older guy wearing a pale blue shirt. He has a stethoscope around his neck and an open medical chart on his knees. It is a cruel fact. Waking up from a tragedy is always way harder than falling into one, because the pain is just sitting there patiently waiting for you. Meet Dr. Harrison Wells, the crime family's private medical fixer for 15 long years. He is literally the only doctor in Manhattan trusted enough to walk through these doors and keep his mouth shut. Seeing her eyes flutter open, he gives a polite nod and gently grabs her wrist to check her pulse. He has seen enough Mafia drama to stay perfectly calm. Now, pan the camera over to the far side of the room. Luciano is standing by the huge window, staring out into the pitch-black garden. He ditched the suit jacket and is just wearing a wrinkled white shirt. His left hand is suffocating a glass of whiskey that is already half gone, even through the fabric. You can see every single muscle in his shoulders locked in a state of pure panic. It proves a major point. Guys, a man can fiercely rule an entire city, but still be completely terrified of losing his own home. Luciano does not even turn around. Honestly, I do not think he has the guts to face her right now. Dr. Wells takes the stethoscope off and starts talking in that soothing voice you use for scared kids. Her blood pressure has crashed. Her blood sugar is dangerously low. He points out the obvious, saying it is from severe stress, skipping meals, and getting zero sleep. He lays down the absolute law. 1 solid week of strict bed rest, proper food, then absolutely zero emotional mafia drama. He scribbles a prescription for vitamins, snaps the file shut, and gets up. Right before he walks out the door, he shoots Luciano a dark look. Their eyes lock for just a fraction of a second. No words are exchanged, but the silent dialogue between them is absolutely screaming. Remember this. Sometimes the loudest. Most life-changing conversations happen without a single word ever being spoken. Listen up, guys, because we all know how this mafia drill works. That cold look means a massive stack of cash just got wired to keep this medical emergency totally buried. The heavy oak door clicks shut, leaving them trapped in the tension. Luciano is planted there like a literal statue, staring into the pitch-black night. Isabella is dying to speak, but her throat is completely locked up. She is lying there, spiraling, wondering if those divorce papers mean they are finished. It just goes to show, the ultimate tragedy of pride is that it builds a massive brick wall between two people who desperately need to be held, right when the silence is about to break them. The door clicks open. Enter Magdalena, the loyal 62-year-old housekeeper, holding a steaming tray of ginger tea. Let us pause right here, guys, because this is where the plot twist drops. Magdalena has been running the Falcone mansion for 4 straight years. She is the human equivalent of a reinforced bomb shelter. She absolutely never cracks, but tonight. Watch her hands as she sets down that silver tea tray. They are visibly shaking, and let me tell you, that is not her arthritis acting up. That is the sheer terror of a woman about to drop a massive secret. She looks at Isabella, then shoots a glance at Luciano, who is still playing the brooding mob boss by the window. She takes a deep breath, pulling in every ounce of courage she has left, and her voice rings out clear as a bell. It is a harsh reminder that sometimes the absolute hardest truths in life come from the quietest people in the room. She calls out to him with pure grit. Don Falcone. I need to say one thing. The guy does not flinch. He just coldly tells her to speak. And right here is where she drops the hammer. She tells him Dr. Wells is great, but he is a doctor for men. Look at how she is gripping that apron, guys. She tells him she has delivered babies back in Italy, raised 12 kids of her own, and she knows the exact signs. The room goes so dead quiet, you can literally hear the fire popping downstairs. Then Luciano turns around. It is the absolute slowest, most cinematic turn you will ever see. Those ice blue eyes, the same ones that make grown mobsters in Manhattan run for the hills, lock onto his housekeeper. The brutal truth is, no amount of mafia power can ever fully prepare you for a reality check. He asks her what on earth she is talking about, and Magdalena stands her ground. She delivers the ultimate plot twist with total certainty. Isabella is not just stressed. Dawn, she is pregnant. Boom, total shock value. The heavy crystal whiskey glass slips right out of Luciano's iron grip. The exact same fingers that have been aggressively choking that glass for 3 solid hours. It hits that deep red Persian rug with a dull thud and rolls right to his expensive leather shoes. Nobody dares to move. Nobody is even breathing. You have got 3 hearts hammering away, and every single one of them just crossed a permanent line. Luciano does not sleep a single wink that night. It really shows how life has a funny way of making the absolute most dangerous men feel completely helpless. You and I really need to think about the insane irony here. The most dangerous mob boss in the city does not touch her, does not even say a word. He just sits there frozen, as if blinking might make this impossible miracle vanish. By 5 in the morning, while the Manhattan sky is still pitch black, he is on his phone. He calls his top enforcer, with a voice so cold it leaves zero room for debate. Half an hour later, the black Rolls-Royce Phantom is idling out front. He actually carries Isabella down those massive stairs himself, burying her inside his heavy cashmere coat. She tells him she can walk, but he absolutely refuses to listen. Because when you finally get the one single thing you never thought you deserved, your very first instinct is to fiercely shield it from the entire world. We are talking absolutely zero wait time for this guy. No clipboard forms, no nurses, no blinding hospital lights. Just Dr. Whitmore, a 60-year-old veteran obstetrician, waiting in a private ultrasound room. Luciano threw so much cash at her at 4 a.m. that she instantly canceled her day. Isabella lays back on the table, totally terrified, shivering when that freezing gel hits her stomach. But here is the detail that actually breaks your heart. Luciano is standing right there, gripping her hand tight, and for the first time ever she can feel his pulse hammering faster than her own. They are holding their breath, waiting for the verdict. It goes to show that massive wealth can easily buy the room, but it can never buy you true peace of mind. The doctor stops moving the wand. She lets this agonizing silence hang in the air, tweaks the monitor, and turns it so they can see. She tells them, "This is your baby, 8 weeks. Heart rate at 163 beats per minute, perfectly healthy. On the screen is this tiny pulse flashing. Steady as a star." Isabella completely loses it. The tears start pouring, and Luciano grips her hand so hard it hurts. This cold-blooded mob killer is holding on for dear life. Dr. Whitmore finishes the scan, pulls out Isabella's old file, and starts comparing the charts. She takes off her glasses, looking completely stunned, because true miracles never announce themselves loudly. They just quietly step in and rewrite your entire life. Stick with me here, because we need to hear what the doctor says next. This is where fate laughs in their faces. She brings up the old records. The cysts, the permanent damage. It was supposedly set in stone, but today, the cysts are gone. The damage is completely healed. She calls it spontaneous conception, a crazy anomaly that happens maybe once in a few 100,000 shots, 30 years in the game. And she has only seen this 3 times. Then she turns to Luciano, who is standing there like a brick wall. She tells him his wife and the baby are fine, but the next 3 months are critical. 0 stress, 0 shocks. She is basically ordering a ruthless mafia boss to put his chaotic life on pause. It proves that sometimes nature steps in and fixes what science already gave up on. Luciano gives the doctor one stiff nod, but his jaw is locked so tight the muscle is visibly twitching. Cut to the drive back home. The sun is just peeking over the East River skyline, turning the glass buildings on Park Avenue a soft pink. They are cruising through the empty streets in the back of the Rolls-Royce, surrounded by that rich leather smell, and neither makes a sound. Isabella is staring out the tinted glass, holding her stomach, trying to process how her universe just flipped upside down. Then, incredibly slowly, Luciano rests his hand on her thigh. He is not grabbing her or trying to claim her. He is simply touching her to prove to himself that she is actually real. It reminds us that the absolute most profound connections usually happen in total silence. He gives her one soft squeeze. 0 words. But Isabella spent 4 brutal years learning to decode this mafia boss, and she knows exactly what that means. It is the very first genuine apology he has ever offered her. When they pull up to the iron gates of the mansion, the morning light is hitting the snow on the cedar bushes. Luciano gets out, walks around the car, and opens her door himself. He absolutely refuses to let her step onto the curb alone. He supports her back, holding her elbow, treating her like she might suddenly shatter into pieces. They walk into the grand foyer, and there is Magdalena, clutching a heavy shawl with wide, panicked eyes. It proves that true redemption does not start with some grand, dramatic speech. It starts with simply showing up differently. Magdalena does not ask a single question. She just looks at him, silently pleading for the answer. Luciano gives her a tiny nod, and the wave of relief that washes over the housekeeper is beautiful. You see this quiet, trembling joy crack her strict face wide open before she turns away to hide her tears. Luciano then walks Isabella straight back into the living room. Yeah, the exact same room where they almost destroyed their marriage the night before. The fireplace is still lightly smoking, and sitting right there on the fancy walnut table are those cursed divorce papers, staring back at them like an open, bleeding wound. He just stands there, looking at the wreckage of their past. It is a harsh reminder that our absolute biggest mistakes are usually entirely our own doing. You and I are about to witness the ultimate turning point. He does not say a word. He steps up, grabs those toxic divorce papers in his massive hands, and ruthlessly rips them straight down the middle. He rips them again and again. The pieces flutter onto the rug like dirty snow. But the boss is not done. He scoops up every shred, walks over to the dying fireplace and tosses them onto the glowing red coals. They blacken, curl up and vanish into pure ash. He watches them burn until there's nothing left. Then he turns around and looks Isabella dead in the eye. This terrifying man walks over to her chair, drops his knees straight onto the rug, and gently takes her hands. It proves that even the absolute hardest hearts will eventually surrender to the right person. Guys, you have to understand how wild this is. A ruthless mafia don who bows to absolutely nobody is on his knees. Isabella completely forgets how to breathe. He says her name, and his voice is low, stripped of the shattered panic from the night before. It is incredibly raw. I need you to listen, he tells her, because I am only saying this once. She just nods, terrified to break the spell. Then he hits her with the heavy backstory. When he was 4 years old, his father told him his mother died of a bad heart. He remembers sitting in her music room, waiting for her to come teach him a piano lesson. But his father walked in and told him she was gone forever. It shows that the hardest scars to heal are always the ones we get before we are old enough to understand what hit us. Listen to the absolute tragedy of this mafia madness. Our cold-blooded Don tells his wife he shed tears for exactly one night in his life. After that, his father dropped the ultimate underworld golden rule. Falcone men never cry. Emotions permanently deleted. He squeezes her hand, and the backstory gets darker. Luciano is 12 years old, riding home from St. Patrick's Cathedral when a car rolls up. He watches his own father take 3 bullets at point-blank range. That was the exact second he decided loving someone is just handing the universe a loaded gun to destroy you. He took the throne at 18 as a total ice king. The real-life lesson here: building massive emotional walls might keep you safe, but it ultimately locks you inside a prison of your own making. You and I are going to unpack this insane plot twist together. Picture this. The untouchable mob boss is finally breaking down. He looks at Isabella, and his icy mafia exterior completely shatters. He straight up admits he loved her from the second she stepped into his study 4 years ago. He loved her when he bought that expensive Steinway piano, and every Sunday when she played it. He even stood outside her door like a scared kid, totally terrified to walk in. Why? Because absolutely nobody ever taught this guy how to love. When she got her diagnosis, he thought the heroic move was to stay silent and let her walk away. The simple life lesson here: trying to protect the people you care about from the painful truth usually just ends up breaking their hearts. The mafia boss admits he was wrong, saying he just did not love her enough. Isabella loses it. And who can blame her? She throws her arms around his neck and sobs. She is crying for 4 years of silence between them. She is crying for the boy who lost his mother, and the kid who watched his dad get murdered. She weeps because these 2 damaged people almost threw their future away. Luciano holds her so tight she can barely breathe, his shoulders shaking silently in the dark. That night, they share a bed again. There is no crazy cinematic romance, just his arms wrapped around her and his hand glued to her stomach. The simple life lesson we can take from this: real, authentic love is often just having the courage to finally let your defensive guard down. Isabella finally sleeps through the night. But Luciano, the mafia boss, stares at the ceiling until dawn. His hand never leaves her stomach, terrified that if he blinks, this miracle will vanish. Fast forward 2 months. Manhattan gets blasted with the most brutal winter in 10 years. Snow is dumping so hard they shut down Madison Avenue just to get the plows through. The Falcone mansion turns into a warm fortress hiding from the freezing whiteout. But honestly, the weather is not the wildest thing happening here. The real plot twist is going on inside those walls. The simple life lesson: sometimes the most dramatic storms we experience are not the physical blizzards outside, but the massive, beautiful shifts happening right inside our own homes. The weirdest part of this drama is that Don Luciano is actually staying home for 4 years. Isabella only saw the back of his head as he left before sunrise and slinked back after midnight now. He sits across from her at breakfast, sipping black coffee and grinning like an idiot every time she yawns in late November. He drags his enforcer Vincenzo into the library for a secret meeting. When Vincenzo walks out, he is carrying a stack of files and the weight of the entire underworld. Luciano just handed off 80% of the mafia business. Port contracts, mob relations in Chicago, and daily street wars are all dumped on his right-hand man. The simple life lesson here: Sometimes stepping back from your stressful career to actually focus on your family is the ultimate power move. Luciano only keeps the biggest strategic calls. He is still the boss, but now he is a work-from-home Mafia don. Every day, from 10 until noon, he camps out in the library. His captains come in to beg, and Vincenzo handles the messy street stuff. But at exactly 12 o'clock, the heavy door slams shut. The Mafia is officially closed for business. The entire rest of the day belongs to Isabella. This ruthless mobster drags himself to every single ultrasound at Mount Sinai Hospital. He crams his expensive tailored suits into cheap plastic waiting room chairs, squeezing her hand, and staring a hole through the medical monitor when the doctor points. The simple life lesson. A true leader knows exactly when to clock out of work and be fully present for the people who actually matter in life. At the 12-week mark, they hear that heartbeat booming through the speakers for the first time. By week 16, the doctor offers to reveal if it is a boy or a girl. Look at the insane dynamic shift here. Luciano looks straight at Isabella, completely deferring to his wife. She shakes her head, wanting to keep the mystery alive, and the Mafia boss agrees instantly. No toxic arrogance, just total respect for his partner. Driving back in their Rolls-Royce, he squeezes her hand and says this kid is already his entire universe. The meaningful life lesson here. The absolute toughest. Most guarded people always fall the hardest when genuine love finally breaks through. Meanwhile, Isabella is dealing with brutal morning sickness that turns her world upside down. The smell of roasting beef alone sends her sprinting for the bathroom. It is rough. Then come those infamous midnight cravings. The hyper-specific kind where you cannot go back to sleep. Picture this scene. It is early January, 2 in the morning. A massive blizzard is raging outside. Isabella wakes up desperately wanting this one specific Italian chicken soup Magdalena made weeks ago. She tosses and turns, trying to ignore it. Of course, Luciano wakes up instantly. The guy has the built-in radar of a paranoid mob boss who sleeps with one eye open. He asks what is wrong, looking ready to fight a brutal street war for her if he has to. The simple life lesson here. True devotion means being on high alert to support your partner, even for the smallest, most random inconveniences. Stick with me, because this is where the story gets good. She gets shy and admits she really wants that soup. He kisses her forehead, tells her to stay put and leaves. Isabella figures he will just wake up Magdalena and order her to cook, but 20 minutes pass, and the house is dead silent. Curiosity gets the better of her, so she sneaks downstairs. The kitchen is lit up with a warm glow, and there he is, the ruthless Don Luciano. His dress shirt sleeves are rolled up, and his deadly Mafia ring is taken off. He is wearing a ridiculous white apron, while Magdalena patiently walks the terrifying boss of bosses through the recipe. The simple life lesson. No one is ever too powerful to do a humble act of service for someone they truly love. Magdalena is actually giving the Mafia boss strict cooking orders. Chop the celery smaller, use cold water and never let it boil. Brown the onions first. Luciano is following every single word with the exact same terrifying focus he uses for million-dollar underworld deals. It is wild. Isabella just freezes in the doorway. She has one hand resting on her tiny baby bump. And suddenly she is crying before she even realizes it. Let's really look at this situation together. The most dangerous mobster in Manhattan is learning to boil chicken at 2 in the morning, just because his wife was a little hungry. Love completely transforms us, right? The simple life lesson here is that genuine affection rewrites the script of who we are entirely, melting even the hardest, most ruthless hearts. From that bizarre 2 in the morning soup session, she truly became his home. Naturally, Isabella and Magdalena grow incredibly close. It becomes the most grounding thing in her life. By week 20, the miserable morning sickness is finally fading. Isabella spends her afternoons in this cozy sitting room. Picture a limestone fireplace, dark velvet chairs, and a window framing the snowed-in garden. Every afternoon around 3, while Luciano is wrapping up Mafia business, Magdalena sneaks in with a pot of chamomile tea and fresh Italian butter cookies. They do not even turn on the lamps, just letting the firelight dance across the walls. The simple life lesson. Embracing quiet moments of peace in an otherwise chaotic world is absolutely vital for healing your spirit. They sit talking about the small stuff, the quiet moments we all take for granted. Magdalena tells stories about growing up in Sicily, living on the dangerous slopes of Mount Etna, where families grow lemons in the volcanic dirt. Isabella talks about her competitive days at Juilliard and playing Carnegie Hall at 19. They never gossip about the Don, but his name weaves through their chatting like a bright red thread. Right here is where things start getting strange. Amidst this cozy talk, Isabella starts noticing little details her logical brain simply cannot explain. Something is definitely off. It is subtle at first, but the clues are piling up right in plain sight. The simple life lesson. Always trust your gut instinct when a situation starts feeling slightly out of place, no matter how perfectly safe it seems. The first massive clue drops on a Thursday. Luciano is busy intimidating a Mafia partner. Magdalena walks in with a coffee tray, drops it on his desk, and walks out without waiting for a nod. Isabella is sitting nearby and peeks at the cup. It is a double espresso, 0 sugar, made from dark roasted Sicilian beans, with exactly 3 drops of whole milk, just 3. Isabella lived with this man for 4 years, and it took her 3 long years to figure out that psychotic coffee order. But Magdalena, she knew that exact formula on her very first day working in the mansion. Nobody gave her a memo, nobody trained her. She just mysteriously knew it completely. The life lesson here: pay close attention, because the smallest, most overlooked details usually expose the biggest secrets. Isabella casually brings the milk thing up to Luciano at dinner, but the boss just shrugs it off. Isabella is not letting it go, though. Next day, she corners Magdalena. The older woman just flashes this sweet smile and claims she guessed the exact 3 drops of milk by watching him drink. Yeah, right, stick with me, because we are about to uncover what really went down. The second incident hits during week 22. Luciano plays tough guy, standing in a brutal blizzard for an hour to see off his crew, and catches a massive cold. His fever spikes to 39 degrees at midnight. Isabella is freaking out, about to call the doctor, when Magdalena glides in with a specific ginger, honey, and lemon tea. Here is the lesson: the universe always leaves breadcrumbs. And if a stranger knows exactly how to heal you, they are probably not a stranger at all. Picture this scene with me. Guys, Isabella hands the steaming cup to an exhausted, delirious Luciano. The ruthless boss does not even question it, just downs it. By morning, the fever breaks. When Isabella casually asks about the tea, Luciano drops a bomb that makes the room temperature plummet. He says it is the exact recipe from the person who took care of him at 3 years old, a person who is long gone. Isabella shuts her mouth. But that night, she lies awake staring at the ceiling, her heart hammering a loud warning. Listen, we all learn this the hard way. The past never really leaves us. It just waits for the perfect moment to introduce itself. The third massive clue drops on a freezing February morning, while she is just waiting for her breakfast. Let us hit pause right here, because this is where fate delivers the absolute bitterest irony. A rare beam of winter sunlight streams through the window. Magdalena, the quiet housekeeper, leans forward with a plate of toast, and the light hits her face perfectly. Isabella looks up, and for one terrifying second, she completely forgets how to breathe. Magdalena does not have ordinary eyes. They are this freezing, piercing ice blue, scattered with glittering silver flecks. It is the exact same eye color, the exact same flecks, and the exact same lifted corners as the ruthless Mafia boss Isabella has shared a bed with for 4 years. What a sick twist of fate. The real lesson is that blood always screams the truth, even when someone tries their absolute hardest to stay hidden in the shadows. Look at how Magdalena steps back and slips out of the room. She moves with the silent footsteps of a woman who has spent a lifetime trying to be invisible. It breaks your heart. Isabella sits there paralyzed in front of her breakfast, her chest tight with absolute panic. A crazy, impossible thought starts taking root in her brain. It is a thought so massive she refuses to even whisper it out loud. The life lesson here is brutal. You can bury a dark secret as deep as you want, but eventually, it will claw its way to the surface. And man, it surfaces way sooner than Isabella is ready to handle. Fast forward 3 nights later. The winter air is freezing. She cannot catch a wink of sleep. And the baby inside her is kicking like crazy at 23 weeks. The little kicks keep coming, keeping her wide awake until 2 in the morning. Here is the heartbreaking contrast. Next to her is Luciano, the ruthless boss, sleeping peacefully with one hand resting on her stomach. He has no clue his entire world is sitting right downstairs. Isabella gently moves his hand, wraps herself in a gray cashmere robe, and pads down the painfully quiet staircase. She is just heading down for warm milk and honey, the exact trick Magdalena taught her. But as she nears the wooden kitchen door, she stops dead in her tracks. A dim, lonely lamp glows from the counter inside, spilling a thin sliver of light through the half-open door. Life constantly teaches us that the absolute quietest moments in the dead of night usually hide the most explosive secrets. Through that narrow gap, she hears a sound that rips your heart straight out. It is the muffled weeping of someone who has been dealt a terrible hand her whole life. Someone who knows exactly how to choke her sadness down so nobody else is bothered. Isabella stands frozen in the hallway for an eternity before finally pushing the door open. There is Magdalena, sitting alone at the staff table. Her usually perfect silver hair is falling in exhausted strands. She is shaking, letting heavy tears roll down her wrinkled cheeks without trying to stop them. In front of her sits a small wooden box hiding yellowed letters, some old lace, and a silver cross. Grief is stubborn. The ultimate lesson is that deep pain never just expires because you force yourself to suffer in absolute silence. Picture this. Magdalena snaps her head up at the creak of the door, but she is way too slow to stash what she is holding. Isabella steps inside, pulling up a chair right across from her. Honestly, you can practically feel the sheer tragedy bleeding out of this scene. The poor housekeeper stares back with heavy, tear-soaked eyes. She is completely drained, totally done with this massive game of pretend. The warm light hits her shaking hands, revealing a severely faded, brownish photograph. It is cracked down the middle, showing a radiant young woman in a summer dress. A mother who literally erased her existence just to watch over her son from the shadows. It just goes to show that real love is not about taking the credit. Sometimes it means quietly sacrificing absolutely everything so someone else can simply survive. Let's pause the tape right here. Look at Isabella's hands physically shaking. She is glued to this battered photograph of a gorgeous woman holding a little boy outside St. Patrick's Cathedral. Check out that kid's face. The sharp chin. Those intense eyebrows. Yep, that is the exact same face of the ruthless Mafia don sleeping upstairs. The irony is so thick you could carve it with a butcher knife. Isabella looks at the picture, then slowly looks up at the tired woman who scrubs their floors. It hits her like an absolute freight train. This broken housekeeper is the boss's actual mother. It reminds you that the heaviest secrets in life are rarely locked away in a steel vault. Most of the time, they are standing right in your own kitchen, quietly waiting for the truth to catch up. Isabella finally speaks, but her voice is completely hollow. She asks Maggie who she really is. Watch Magdalena's face here, she does not freak out. She just sets that picture down on the wooden table, like she has been dragging a boulder on her back for 32 years, and finally gets to drop it. Taking a deep breath, she entirely drops the act. Gone is the meek maid they have ignored for 4 years. The voice that speaks next belongs to a ghost. She calmly states her real name is Magdalena Russo Falcone, born in Palermo, Sicily. Back in 1961, that radiant young mother, that was her. It teaches us a brutal life lesson. Sometimes the absolute most painful thing a person can do is say their own real name out loud, especially after the cruel world viciously forced them to bury it. Isabella sits there frozen, while Magdalena rattles off her own tragic backstory like she is reading a newspaper. She was 24, working at her family's flower shop in Sicily. Then the big bad Mafia widower, Don Amelio Falcone, struts in and buys flowers every single day just to see her smile. Fast forward 6 months, and she is living in Manhattan as his official second wife. She was so incredibly young, pouring all her innocent love into this hardened criminal. A year later, baby Luciano is born. She actually swore she was going to teach this little Mafia prince how to truly love and laugh. But here is the brutal life lesson. Folks, you can pour all the pure, crystal clear water you want into a totally poisoned well, but you are never, ever going to make it safe to drink. Those first few years were an absolute fairy tale, but every Mafia drama needs a villain. Enter Giovanna Falcone, the bitter older sister who ran the mansion with an iron fist. She despised this young Sicilian girl who dared to make her brother happy. So what does Giovanna do? When little Luciano is just 4 years old, she hatches the most diabolical scheme. She hires an actor, sets up a completely fake romantic rendezvous at a cafe down in Little Italy, and pays a photographer to snap heavily doctored pictures of Magdalena kissing this stranger. It is incredibly sickening to watch. But it reminds us of a dark truth. Miserable people will always try to destroy your happiness, simply because your genuine joy shines a harsh, blinding spotlight on their own bitter and totally empty lives. Giovanna even forged love letters to match Magdalena's handwriting, dropping the explosive package right onto the Don's desk. Emilio loved his wife. But in the criminal underworld, love combined with a bruised ego instantly turns into pure poison. He didn't ask a single question, no trial. No chance to explain. He just stormed into their bedroom at 2 a.m, hurled the fake evidence in her face, and had his goons drag her out into the freezing cold. She couldn't even pack a bag or step into her son's nursery to say goodbye. He threatened to end her life if she ever returned to Manhattan. Let that sink in for a second. The absolute quickest way to lose everything you hold dear is to let your own reckless pride make your decisions before you ever take the time to hear the real truth. You and I are about to unpack some absolute mafia madness. Right before the mob shoves her into a getaway car, she pulls the ultimate mom move. She sneaks into 4-year-old Luciano's room, risking a bullet, just to kiss his forehead and whisper goodbye. The next morning, his dad, Emilio the big boss, looks the toddler in the eyes and lies, saying she died of a heart attack. The poor kid buys it. Meanwhile, for 28 years, she lives like a total ghost over in Brooklyn. She goes by O'Sullivan, scrubbing floors and dodging the syndicate so they never find her. It makes you stop and think. Sometimes, true love is not about fighting to stay in the picture. The realest love is having the guts to walk away into the shadows, just to keep your family breathing. Let us hit the brakes for a second, guys, because this is wild. For decades, Magdalena lived completely off the grid like an absolute ghost. She reads about the Falcone crime family in the morning papers like they are total strangers. She even hides behind a thick scarf at a cathedral, just to catch a single glimpse of her son at a funeral. But when Luciano gets married, she finally stops running. She buys a fake ID, becomes a 58-year-old housekeeper, and somehow beats 3 intense Mafia security checks just to scrub floors in the exact mansion she was meant to rule. The irony is insane. But look, here is the lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous risks we take in life are simply to find our way back to the people we never should have left behind in the first place. Picture walking into your own house after 28 years, and nobody knows who you are. Magdalena says her knees almost gave out when she finally saw Luciano. Her tiny boy is now this 32-year-old mafia boss. He looks right through her, speaking with his father's voice, and it is gut-wrenching. Isabella is a total mess, sobbing and begging her to just tell the man the truth. He spent his entire life crying over a ghost. But Magdalena refuses to budge. She knows that Snake Giovanna is still pulling the strings. If Giovanna finds out the cleaning lady is the rightful matriarch, she will not use a lie this time, she will use a bullet. It goes to show fear has a nasty habit of keeping us locked in a cage, even when the door has been wide open the whole time. Magdalena drops a massive reality check. Giovanna will not just eliminate her, she will wipe out Isabella and the unborn baby without a second thought. Magdalena decides playing it safe is the only move, but here is where the universe plays a sick joke. You and I know secrets like this never stay buried for long. While these 2 women cry in a dark kitchen at 2 a.m, 15 blocks away, Giovanna Falcone is losing her mind. She slams her phone down so hard the crystal base shatters. For 2 whole years, she has been paying a corrupt hospital nurse to spy on Isabella. Tonight, that nurse dropped the ultimate nightmare news. Patience might be a virtue for most of us, but in this brutal world, you have to remember that your enemies never actually sleep. The nurse's report is an absolute bombshell. Isabella is 23 weeks pregnant with a healthy baby girl. Boom, Giovanna collapses into her chair, hands shaking with decades of bottled-up rage. Let us look at it from her twisted point of view. 32 years ago, she destroyed Magdalena's life just to keep the family power firmly under her thumb. When Luciano took over, he turned out to be a ruthless shark instead of a puppet. So she spent 18 years grooming her own son, Tommaso, waiting for Luciano to fade out without an heir. She sacrificed her whole life playing this massive long game, only to watch it turn to dust in seconds. It is a harsh truth to swallow. You can build a flawless fortress out of lies, but fate will always blow it down with a single breath. 2 years ago, doctors told Isabella she was infertile. Giovanna seriously thought she had won the jackpot. Her twisted masterpiece was almost done. Isabella was even supposed to sign divorce papers last month now. That exact same daughter-in-law carries the tiny heartbeat that will steal Giovanna's entire empire. It is enough to make anyone snap. So what does a desperate matriarch do? She crosses the line. By 7 the next evening, she steps out of a luxury car at a shady Queens nightclub. This spot belongs to the Russian Bratva, her family's sworn blood enemies for 20 years. She is literally walking into the devil's living room to burn her own house down. Blind ambition is a true poison. It will make you gladly shake hands with the exact monsters who want to destroy you. Giovanna heads deep underground, past heavy steel doors, into a basement where Matthias Kovac is waiting. This guy is the boss of the New York Bratva, built like a tank, with the dead gray eyes of a wolf who has seen too much violence. He does not even bother standing up when she walks in. He just points to a chair. Giovanna slams a leather briefcase on the table, totally ignoring the poured vodka. She cuts right to the chase. Luciano's wife is having a baby in 4 months. If that kid takes her first breath, Luciano's grip on the city is locked in for another generation. She is literally selling out her family's future just to control its past. It is a brutal reminder. When unchecked rage makes you totally blind, you will happily hand a loaded weapon to your worst enemy. Let us look at Giovanna's supposed master plan. She wants Isabella gone with 0 blood on her own hands. Classic Mafia denial. So she hands the keys to the kingdom right over to the Russian Bratva. She gives up 30% of the port, the secret shipping schedules, and the names of key capos. She is basically rolling out a red carpet for them. Across the table, Matthias knocks back his vodka. His dead eyes lock onto hers, and he lets out a chilling laugh. He says he has waited 20 years for someone to hand him the family on a silver platter. Here is the reality check. When you try to outsmart karma by outsourcing your absolute worst deeds, you are just inviting the devil inside. Giovanna truly thinks she is the ultimate player, but she is just a disposable pawn. They shake on it. 2 cold-blooded predators sealing a twisted pact. That single handshake just signed a death warrant. Fast forward 3 weeks. It is 4:17 on a Wednesday morning, and the shipping port gets ripped apart by a massive blast. We are talking an explosion so violent, it shatters apartment windows 3 blocks away. 60-foot flames chew through the freezing rain, painting the sky a bloody red. By 5 in the morning, Vincenzo rolls up in his leather coat, but it is way too late. The fire department already has the zone locked down. The target was warehouse number 7. It is honestly tragic. You can spend decades building a solid, powerful legacy, but it takes exactly one greedy, desperate handshake to burn the whole thing down to the ashes. This was not a random building. It was one of their main strategic warehouses, now reduced to toxic smoke. 30 massive containers of cargo were completely wiped out. But here is the part that genuinely hurts. 3 young enforcers on the night shift never made it out. Luciano brought those kids into the fold 3 years ago, treating them like his own little brothers. Vincenzo watches their bodies get pulled from the wreckage, grinding his teeth so hard you can hear the stress. He makes exactly 1 phone call, 2 rings, and Luciano picks up. By 7 in the morning, the boss is sealed inside the armored bunker of his mansion, glaring at 12 security monitors. It goes to show. The higher you build your fortress walls, the harder it hurts when the people already inside are the ones who tear them down. Luciano has not slept a wink. Upstairs, Isabella is resting peacefully, totally unaware of the absolute chaos. Magdalena is guarding her door like a hawk. Down in the bunker, Vincenzo lays out the brutal reality. Warehouse 7 was targeted on purpose. It was the only location packed with enough cargo to guarantee a massive blast for the morning news. Worse, those shift schedules were just set 2 days ago. It was an inside job. Luciano steps up to the screen, gripping the freezing edge of the steel table. His eyes go completely blank, stripped of all emotion. The older guys know that look means someone is about to drop. Pay attention, because this is a harsh truth in life. When a powerful man drops his loud anger and goes utterly quiet, that is exactly when the real monsters come out to play. Luciano finally speaks. His voice is so dangerously low it makes your skin crawl. He asks who knew the schedule. Vincenzo nervously drops 7 names. 4 are top loyalists. 2 are ancient advisors. And the 7th name, Tommaso, his own flesh and blood. But Luciano does not even flinch. He just waves a hand, telling Vincenzo to keep digging. For the next 4 agonizing hours, The tech team scrubs every frame of security footage across the city. By 11 in the morning, Vincenzo walks into the study clutching a black hard drive like it is a live grenade. He tries to keep his face straight, but he looks physically sick. It is a tough pill to swallow. You can pick your friends, but you cannot pick your family. Sometimes the people sharing your last name are the ones holding the sharpest knife to your back. Stick with me here, because this is where it gets incredibly ugly. The footage rolls on the screen. Monday evening, 7:09. A black SUV with Russian plates pulls up to Giovanna's private estate. The guy behind the wheel is the right-hand man of the Bratva boss. He goes inside for exactly 53 minutes. When he walks in, he has one leather briefcase. When he walks out, he is carrying two. It is the ultimate dirty payout. Luciano stands there in silence, watching the tape replay 3 times. Then he sinks into his leather chair, slowly spinning the family ring on his finger. When he finally speaks, his voice is perfectly, terrifyingly calm. It is a bitter life lesson we all eventually face. The most devastating betrayals never come from your sworn enemies out in the streets. They come from the very people sitting right at your own dinner table. Let's hit pause right here, guys, because you and I need to appreciate this madness. Look at Don Luciano, staring out at the snow like some mastermind playing chess. He has Isabella locked down tighter than a Vault 4 guards. A private Rolls Royce. Total isolation. He thinks he is baiting Giovanna to expose her Red Hook explosion backers. But here is the twisted irony. He is so obsessed with outside enemies. He completely ignores Magdalena in the shadows. For 32 years. This mother swallowed toxic secrets to protect them. And now her silence must die. It is a harsh lesson for us all. Sometimes those massive walls we build do not actually keep the danger out. They just lock us inside with the exact truth we are desperately trying to escape. Listen up, guys, because this is where the script flips completely. The crosshairs are not on her back. They are pointed straight at her unborn grandchild. Talk about absolute zero morals. Luciano whisks Isabella off to church, packing 3 bodyguards like a presidential motorcade. That leaves Magdalena exactly 40 minutes in a dead, empty mansion. She ghosts up to the second-floor study and pops open a leather satchel she hid 4 years ago. Inside are 3 items, but the first is an absolute gut punch. A black and white photo of her and her boy at St. Patrick's. She is preparing for absolute war while holding a picture of a 3-year-old. The life lesson here is simple. Your deepest vulnerabilities are always tied to the people you love the most, no matter how tough you act. Let's look at this second item together. It is a massive 7-page letter Magdalena wrote to Emilio Falcone 32 years ago, right after being tossed out like literal trash. She laid out the whole ugly truth about Giovanna and that fake doctored photo. But here is the absolute kicker. She never sent it, because Emilio banned her from contacting him. Add to that a secret burner phone she kept after overhearing Giovanna scheming just 2 weeks ago. This old housekeeper was playing the ultimate long game in the shadows, waiting for the perfect strike. And honestly, isn't that the real lesson here? The people we silence do not just disappear into thin air. They usually become the silent architects of our final reckoning, holding the exact receipts we thought were buried forever. On that recording, Giovanna's voice is crystal clear, bragging to some mystery partner that she spent 32 years clawing her way to the top. She admits she would never let a nobody ruin her empire, totally boasting about how she erased Luciano's real mother back in the day. Magdalena takes this ticking time bomb, along with the letter, and plants them right under the glare of Luciano's desk lamp. No dramatic notes. No main character speeches. She just walks down to the greenhouse, sits among her jasmine plants, and waits for the explosion. It is wild, guys. The most powerful moves in life are never loud. Sometimes the ultimate power play is just laying the undeniable truth on the table, walking away, and letting gravity do the rest of the work for you. Stick with me, because this is where the tension completely snaps. At 9:40 that night, Luciano walks into his study for a routine security check. He sees the photo under the lamp. He sits down, moving like a total ghost, and reads all 7 yellowed pages of his mother's slanted handwriting. Then he plays the audio. For 5 minutes and 23 seconds, he listens to the woman who raised him casually confess to destroying his entire life. When it ends, he just stands up and slowly walks over to his father's antique walnut liquor cabinet. You see, the hardest truths in life do not usually make us scream right away. They hollow us out first. We realize that the very foundation we built our entire existence on was nothing but a carefully constructed lie. He puts both hands on the glass of that beautiful cabinet, and with 32 years of compressed, boiling rage, he completely obliterates it. He shoves the massive piece of furniture to the floor, glass shatters, wood splinters, and thousands of dollars of scotch bleed into the carpet. 2 guards rush the door, but Luciano just whispers for them to get out. He stands alone in the wreckage, his massive shoulders shaking then. He simply picks up the photo and heads downstairs. It breaks your heart, right? The guy has infinite Mafia power, but in this moment, he is totally powerless. It teaches us a brutal truth about anger. No matter how much you destroy in the outside world, it never actually fixes the quiet, broken pieces inside your own soul. You and I are going to watch something incredible here. He walks through the grand foyer, past the living room, straight out to the moonlit greenhouse. No lights, just silver beams hitting the jasmine pots. Magdalena is sitting right there on the wicker chair, hands in her lap. She doesn't even stand up. She just looks at him and Don Luciano Falcone. The ruthless mob boss, who literally makes all of Manhattan bow its head, walks over and drops to his knees. He rests his heavy head right in her lap. It is absolutely staggering to witness this level of vulnerability. You realize that no matter how much heavy armor we wear, or how many walls we build to look untouchable to the outside world, every single one of us is just desperately looking for a safe place to finally rest our head. For a long time, the silence is totally deafening. Then this 36-year-old Mafia kingpin just breaks down, sobbing on her lap like the terrified 4-year-old boy who once waited for her in the piano room. Magdalena gently strokes his dark hair, tears spilling down her weathered cheeks, mixing with his. Not a single word is spoken between them. 32 years of living a stolen life. Of a mother forbidden to be called mother. All of it shatters in that tiny greenhouse among the jasmine. It hits right in the chest, doesn't it? Because the most profound apologies and the deepest forgiveness in life rarely require actual words, sometimes. Shared tears can wash away decades of agonizing silence faster than any spoken conversation ever could. Fast forward 2 weeks. And Isabella is 28 weeks pregnant. Moving slower with the heavy weight of their child, Luciano and Vincenzo are playing a terrifying game of chess. They are doing absolutely nothing to Giovanna, hoping her false sense of security will draw out the rest of the rats. But you cannot hustle a hustler. Giovanna is a venomous snake who has survived in this grass way too long. She notices the Bratva going totally silent after the blast. She spots the unfamiliar guards patrolling the estate. Her radar is screaming red alert. It is a classic reminder of how deception works. You can build the absolute perfect trap, but paranoia is a survival instinct. When you live your whole life dealing in lies, you can always smell when the truth is finally coming for you. Giovanna knows she has to strike first before the walls close in. Saturday afternoon, her black Maybach rolls up to the mansion. She steps out looking entirely different, ditching her flashy mink for a modest gray coat, holding white flowers and a pink gift box. She is playing the role of the humble, remorseful aunt begging for grace. The housekeeper brings her to the living room where Isabella is reading. Giovanna puts on an absolute masterclass of acting, her voice shaking as she apologizes, begging to clear the air before the baby arrives. It is so manipulative it actually makes you sick. But here is the dangerous reality about toxic people. They know exactly which mask to wear, and they will totally weaponize your own capacity for empathy, just to get close enough to strike. She slides the pink box over, revealing a gold St. Anne pendant, the patron saint of mothers. It is brilliant psychological warfare. Isabella has sharp instincts now, and her gut is screaming that this is a trap, but Giovanna is crying real tears, begging for just 10 minutes alone in the garden to talk woman to woman. Meanwhile, Luciano is stuck down in the basement, dealing with a supposedly urgent security issue. It is a perfectly orchestrated distraction. We are watching a lamb negotiate with a vicious wolf. The sad lesson here is one we all need to remember. The most lethal predators in life do not always kick the door down with guns blazing. Sometimes they knock politely, hand you a beautifully wrapped gift, and simply ask for a tiny moment of your time. Isabella looks out the window, sees the usual guards in the sunlit yard, and agrees to go out the second they step outside. A delivery truck Magdalena ordered weeks ago pulls up to the side gate. Standard procedure pulls the outer guards to check it. In that exact 4-minute blind spot, a black Cadillac SUV blows through the open gate. Three guys in black jump from the hedges before Isabella can even make a sound, pressing a chloroform rag hard over her face. It is a flawlessly synchronized nightmare unfolding in broad daylight, and it teaches a brutal lesson about trust. Our biggest vulnerabilities rarely come from our obvious enemies. They almost always come from the familiar faces standing right beside us, exploiting the very safety nets we thought would protect us from harm. The harsh chemical burns her nose, and her hands immediately rush to protect her unborn child, but as Isabella fades out, the last thing she sees is Giovanna's face. No more fake tears, just a freezing, victorious smile from a woman who waited 32 years for this exact revenge. Inside, Magdalena sees Giovanna leaving alone. She doesn't need an explanation. This 62-year-old woman sprints down to the basement command room, screaming that Isabella is gone before she completely collapses on the floor. It is absolutely gut-wrenching to witness. The cruelty of fate is that the moment we finally secure our happiness, we become terrified of losing it. Life has a sick habit of waiting until you have everything you have ever wanted before it violently pulls the rug out from under you. Guys, we need to wrap this up right now because this ending is pure, chilling absolute cinema. Luciano has literally seen it all, watched his own dad take 3 bullets, caught a body at just 17, and handed out execution orders like they were parking tickets. But looking at his collapsed mom, realizing his pregnant wife Isabella was snatched in broad daylight, he finally learns what real panic tastes like. His face goes completely dead, knuckles bone white. He gives Vincenzo 6 hours to find her. He is turning New York into a literal bonfire. It just goes to show you guys. Power is an illusion. You can run empires and armies, but the second you truly love someone, you hand the universe the exact weapon it needs to destroy you. Picture this. You and I, watching the entire criminal underworld, wake up at the exact same second. The Falcone family flips a switch, and Manhattan goes on total lockdown. The city has not seen this kind of muscle in 20 years. Bro, every single boss, street rat, and bartender owing the Don gets a wake-up call. They catch the black Escalade on a traffic cam, flying through the Lincoln Tunnel at 2:47 in the afternoon. By 6, Vincenzo tracks it to a rusted warehouse in Newark. 7 armed guys spotted. The life lesson here is pretty straightforward. When you push a powerful man into a corner and threaten his family, you do not just fight him. You fight every single demon and ghost he can summon from the shadows. 10 o'clock at night, and the freezing rain is coming down hard, like the sky itself is mourning what is about to happen. 20 Falcone hitters box the warehouse in from all sides. Luciano is sitting in his truck 200 meters out, racking his Glock 19. Black body armor on, the heavy family ring turned inward so the gold does not shine. Vincenzo is on the earpiece giving the green light. Luciano has not spoken a word or drank a drop of water in 3 hours, just pure, icy rage waiting to explode. It is wild how pain actually works in the real world. We always think trauma makes a person weak and vulnerable, but in the absolute darkest moments, a broken heart can turn a normal man into a terrifying, unstoppable machine. 10 o'clock sharp. Vincenzo gives the signal, and absolute chaos drops. Luciano steps into the rain, and his crew moves like absolute pros. Smoke grenades bounce into the doors, and 3 seconds later, the world is just deafening gunfire. Guys are dropping from the roof on ropes, while Luciano literally kicks the front door off its hinges. He drops the first dude before the guy can even blink, and the second takes one right to the dome. The whole bloodbath takes 8 minutes flat. Luciano does not rush. He just walks over bodies until he finds Kovac holding an assault rifle. Here is a little truth for you to remember. Real speed is not about sprinting around like a maniac. True speed is just moving with absolute, unbroken conviction. Now here is the crazy, tragic irony of a cornered rat. This guy Kovac actually laughs when he sees Luciano. It is that bitter, hollow laugh of a dude who knows he is already dead, but wants to go out running his mouth. He spits some final insult in Russian, but Luciano does not even care. Why listen to a dead man talking? One shot, dead center between the eyes. Kovac slams into a bookshelf and hits the floor. Luciano does not even break his stride, bro. He steps right over the body, shoves open a heavy iron door, and hears a tiny broken moan echoing from the back. His heart absolutely stops. Life constantly teaches us that letting your ego talk will always get you killed, but true love will make you drop everything and run. He kicks that metal meat locker door so hard it nearly snaps in half. The blast of freezing air hits him like a truck, barely 5 degrees inside. Rusted hooks hanging from the ceiling like a horror movie, And right in the center, tied to a wooden chair, is Isabella, hands bound, ankles tied. Shivering violently, with her gray coat soaked in cold sweat, she is instinctively curling backward to protect her 7-month pregnant belly. She looks up, and those amber eyes just flood with tears the second she sees her husband. Not terrified tears, but pure relief. It is a beautiful reminder for anyone going through hell right now. Sometimes the greatest strength a person can ever show is just holding on long enough for help to finally arrive. She lets out this heartbreaking moan, whispering that the baby is coming way too early at just 28 weeks. Listen, this is the exact same ruthless mafia boss who just wiped out a warehouse of heavily armed men without blinking an eye. But right here, he drops to his knees faster than a beggar. He slashes those ropes in 3 seconds flat, scoops her up against his chest, and sprints out of that freezer. He has blood on his jacket and gun smoke in his hair, but he is just begging her to stay awake. It is a crazy reality check for all of us. You can conquer the entire world, stack all the cash, and build an empire. But the thought of losing your family will bring you right back down to your knees on the dirty concrete. He keeps whispering in her ear, swearing on his life that they are going to make it out of this. Vincenzo is already waiting outside with a fake ambulance, and a doctor paid a fat stack of cash to keep quiet. Luciano puts Isabella inside, grabs her hand and gives Vincenzo that classic mob boss look, no words needed, under the old laws. Vincenzo is going to clean this up perfectly. No bodies, no cameras, no cops. By morning, that warehouse is just wet ashes in the New Jersey rain in the back. The doctor pumps Isabella full of meds to stop the early labor. A lot of people think money and power solve every single problem in life. But in moments of pure panic, all that wealth really just buys you a tiny little bit more time. When they pull up to the private entrance at Mount Sinai Hospital, Dr. Elena Whitmore is waiting with a whole crew. They rush Isabella straight into the back. For 4 long hours, the medicine actually does its job, and the pain slows down. But nature really does not care about what we want. The baby is coming, and no drug on the planet is going to stop it. At 28 weeks, a full 3 months early, Dr. Whitmore looks Luciano right in the face and gives him the brutal truth. The baby is tiny, lungs barely formed, but she has a fighting chance. Isabella just nods bravely. It is a harsh reality to face in life. But sometimes all you can do is accept the storm and trust that you built a strong enough ship to survive it. You seriously have to admire Isabella's fighting spirit here. She squeezes his hand and tells him their kid has already beaten insane odds, so surviving one night is nothing. Then comes 18 brutal, exhausting hours of labor. Luciano refuses to move an inch. No food, no sleep, no phone calls to the crew. He just sits there wiping the sweat off her face. When she screams in the 13th hour that she is completely done and cannot take the agony anymore, he leans in. He reminds her she survived 32 years of family betrayal and a freezing torture room. The deepest kind of love is not just holding someone's hand when things are easy. It is reminding them of their own incredible strength when they completely forget it. 6:47 on a Sunday morning, the silence finally breaks. A tiny furious cry fills the delivery room, a baby girl. 2 pounds and 12 ounces, fighting like an absolute champion for her very first breath. Dr. Whitmore cleans her up, wraps her in a soft pink blanket, and lays her right on Isabella's chest. She has a full head of thick black hair, just like the Don himself. When she opens her eyes, Isabella sees the exact same ice blue eyes with silver flecks that she fell in love with years ago. Luciano leans over, totally frozen, and just offers his finger to his tiny daughter. Life always finds a crazy way to remind us, even in the middle of chaos, that every single new beginning is a beautiful, fragile miracle. That tiny little girl grabs his finger with everything she has. And right in that moment, Don Luciano Falcone, the most terrifying, cold-blooded man in the entire city, completely breaks down. He cries for only the 2nd time in his whole life. No loud sobbing, just silent tears tracking down his face and hitting the pink blanket. Isabella looks at him and whispers the name they picked, Aurelia Magdalena Falcone. Luciano chokes up, but he explains the meaning. Aurelia for the golden light, and Magdalena to honor his mother. It really just shows you, guys, that even the hardest, most heavily guarded hearts can be melted in an absolute instant by the simple, pure innocent touch of a child who depends on you for everything. Luciano walks out to the waiting room, takes his mother's tired hands and brings her to the incubator. He looks at her and says, "Meet your granddaughter." Magdalena slips her shaking hand through the plastic and grazes the baby's skin. Think about the wild irony here. For 30. Vincenzo dumps every single piece of dirt Magdalena dug up right onto the table. He plays the audio from the Russian mob sit down, exposing the ancient conspiracy, the fake alliance, the bomb that took out 3 of their guys, and the kidnapping scheme. He drops this nuclear truth bomb in absolute dead silence. The council does not even whisper an argument. 12 hands go up. Unanimous, since Giovanna is old Mafia blood. The rules say they cannot just put a bullet in her, but they strip her of absolutely everything. You and I both know the real lesson here. The absolute cruelest punishment is not a quick end, but living long enough to watch the empire you built on, lies crumble to dust, right in front of your eyes. Karma never misses an address. The brutal math of the mob is on full display right here. Everything Giovanna owned gets snatched and tossed to the loyal capos like fresh meat to hungry dogs. Her name is totally scrubbed from the family tree. Poof, she never existed. They give her 48 hours to ship out to a locked-down convent in Sicily. House arrest for life. 0 property. No phone calls to New York. Even her kid gets busted down to the absolute bottom rung. But here is the scene that hits you right in the gut. Cut to the VIP room at the hospital. A grandmother, a mother, and a granddaughter are just sitting there. It took 32 years of blood and lies just for them to safely share a room. The lesson. Sometimes the heaviest silences are the ones where the deepest generational healing finally begins. Fast forward 2 whole years. Remember that creepy Upper East Side mansion Isabella used to call her golden prison. It is completely unrecognizable. Forget the depressing mobster oil paintings. The walls are now plastered with bright family photos, instead of the suffocating stench of Cuban cigars. You smell Magdalena baking Sunday butter cookies. The only sound is the clumsy footsteps of a 2-year-old ruling the roost. Little Aurelia is the real boss of the house. It genuinely hits hard when the camera zooms in on the grandmother, silently crying while watching the kid sleep safely. She finally got the family she sacrificed everything to protect. The simple truth is, the absolute best revenge against a violent past is just building a peaceful, beautiful future. Look at this kid, sprinting through a mafia mansion on tiny legs, shouting for her nana in adorable, broken Italian. It is just too pure in Luciano. He kept his word. We all know mob bosses never retire, but he totally flips the script. He and his lawyers wash the entire family empire clean now. They are Falcone Holdings, casually owning 17 giant skyscrapers across the city. They run luxury hotels in the Hamptons, and launched an Italian restaurant chain that pulled in a Michelin star across 8 locations. The baddest crime syndicate in New York literally turned into a high-end hospitality brand. The takeaway here is simple but massive. No matter how dark your past is, you always have the power to walk away and build something better for the people you love. Get this crazy detail. The star item on their Michelin menu is the chicken soup Magdalena taught Luciano to make at 2 a.m. during a snowstorm 3 years ago. You cannot write better irony. As for his deadly enforcers, Luciano gave them an out. Take a fat payout and vanish, or put on a suit and go legit. Most of these hardened thugs actually chose the boardroom over the bloody streets. Then we get this beautifully framed shot in December. The rose garden is dusted with sparkling snow. Luciano and Isabella are standing under an arch of white roses. They are getting ready to renew their vows, finally choosing each other on their own terms. The lesson here is clear. A relationship built on genuine, free choice is always stronger than one forced by circumstance or duty. This is not some cold mafia merger like their first wedding. No shady contracts, no blood debts, just a real emotional ceremony. Only 30 guests made the cut. Her parents are there, and her little brother is flexing his new degree. But the camera purposely lingers on Magdalena. She is sitting in the front row, holding little Aurelia. When they exchange vows, they turn straight to her. She rests her tired, wrinkled hands on their heads and whispers a blessing in Italian. Words she has not dared to speak out loud for 32 miserable years, absolute chills. You and I need to remember this one simple truth. Real family is never about who controls your life. It is about who steps up to bless your freedom when you finally break the chains of the past. 3 weeks later. It is Christmas Eve. The mansion is totally quiet. Aurelia is sleeping safely upstairs. Down in the living room, Isabella is curled up next to Luciano by a giant fireplace. Grab your tissues. Guys, it is the exact fireplace where their messy divorce papers burned to ash 3 years ago. She rests her head on his shoulder. She has been holding back a secret for days, waiting to drop the bomb. She grabs his hand and presses it flat against her stomach. She looks right at him and delivers the ultimate line. A baby boy. 7 weeks. Completely natural. Boom, heartstrings pulled. The lesson here is beautiful. Sometimes the greatest blessings arrive the moment you stop fighting the past and just let yourself be happy. Luciano completely freezes. 3 seconds of total silence. The big bad mafia boss is paralyzed. He leans in, resting his forehead against hers, choking on his words. We are watching a ruthless killer cry for the 3rd time in his life. Isabella smiles through her tears, wiping his face. He buries his face in her hair and whispers that she saved a man he thought died when he was 4. She looks into his eyes and drops the truth. We saved each other. That is what real family does. She realizes the night she almost signed those divorce papers was never their tragic finale. It was their real beginning. The takeaway is simple. True love is not about finding perfection. It is about finding someone brave enough to step into your darkness and pull you back into the light. This time around, they are not following some toxic script written by the ghosts of their past. They are writing their own story together, one raw choice at a time. They are building a legacy meant to last, instead of an empire destined to burn. The brutal irony of their story is a massive wake-up call. True love is not some fragile glass that never cracks. It is the messy, painful work of 2 flawed people actively choosing to glue the shattered pieces back together. Stick with me, because this is where it gets real. No amount of crazy family expectations or mob wars gets to decide your worth. The hardest lesson is that the biggest miracles in life crash right into us, the exact moment we are convinced we have lost everything. You just have to be willing to pick up the pieces. It hits us with a harsh truth. Silence is hands down the cruelest weapon you can use against someone you love. Sticking to the truth is the only real escape hatch out of the dark. Alright, guys. The credits are rolling on this wild ride with Isabella and Luciano. But I know it will haunt us for a while. What is your take on their insane story? Have you ever hit total rock bottom? Convinced it was over, only for fate to yank you in a crazy new direction? That is the magic of second chances. Drop a comment below and spill your thoughts because I read every single one. If this breakdown hit you right where it hurts, smash that like button, share the video, and hit subscribe with the bell. You and I are going to keep unpacking these intense stories together, digging deep into the messy, beautiful, and brutal sides of human nature. Having you guys watching, arguing in the comments, and tearing apart these masterpieces with me is exactly why I keep hitting record. I am out here searching for raw emotion, and your incredible support is the only fuel I need to keep this content coming. From the bottom of my heart, I want to wish every single one of you a ton of health, a few solid laughs every day, and enough inner peace to weather whatever crazy storms life throws your way. Remember, your worst struggles today are just setting up your ultimate comeback story tomorrow. Keep your head up, stay sharp out there, and I will catch you guys in the next breakdown. Peace out. One of the most painful parts of Isabella's journey is the way people judged her because she was believed to be infertile. The Falcone family treated her as if her inability to bear a child made her less valuable as a wife and as a woman. This reflects a harmful belief that still exists in many societies, that a woman's worth depends on whether she can become a mother. The story strongly challenges that idea. Isabella is kind, intelligent, talented, loyal, and loving. She sacrifices herself to protect her family. She brings warmth into a cold mansion. She teaches Luciano how to love again. Her value existed long before she became pregnant. The miracle of her pregnancy is touching, but it should not be the reason she finally becomes worthy. She was already worthy. This is an important educational lesson for audiences. No person should be reduced to one biological ability, one social role, or one family expectation. Women should not be shamed for infertility, miscarriage, delayed motherhood, or choosing a different path in life. A marriage should be built on respect, companionship, and love, not only on producing heirs. Giovanna and the family elders represent a cruel kind of social pressure. They care more about bloodline and reputation than about Isabella's pain. Their behavior teaches us what not to become. A family should protect its members, not emotionally destroy them. The lesson is that human dignity must come before tradition. A woman is not an empty womb. She is a complete person with dreams, emotions, talents, and a soul. True love recognizes that, even when society fails to.